When I found out I hadn't been accepted into the college I'd aspired to attend, my world went dark, and it felt like the end of everything.
Wait, what? You didn't get in?
My mom looked at me with a terrifying glare as I told her the news. Well, I did get accepted into another college. My feeble voice was drowned out by my dad's stern words.
If you go anywhere else than there, I ain't paying a dime.
I don't have any money to go to college on my own. Never got an allowance, didn't do any part-time jobs, and instead studied diligently at home, aiming for my first choice. So what he's saying is, do not go to college.
Man, all that nerdy studying and you still failed. Pathetic.
My younger brother, Kevin, laughed mockingly at me. I lived with my dad, who ran a business, my stay-at-home mom, and Kevin, 3 years my junior. I've always been quiet and not good at expressing my feelings. On the other hand, Kevin was straightforward, good at being spoiled, and so adept at getting by that even his whims were tolerated. I don't believe all kids are cherished equally by their parents.
Honestly, Jake is so reserved and not endearing.
Yeah, but Kevin, he's always smiling and cute.
Parents are human after all. There probably are kids they find endearing and others not so much. Kids like me, lacking in charm, are pushed away, while the more affectionate ones, like Kevin, are doted upon. Despite being the older brother, only Kevin got new clothes, shoes, candies, and toys, while I was given hand-me-downs from neighbors. Still, I was starved for my parents' love. I devoted myself to studying for college entrance exams, hoping that if I got into a prestigious school, they might finally accept me. I had even been told by my teachers that I was almost certain to get in. But on the day of the exams, the pressure got to me and I fell ill. I forced myself to go to the exam venue, but I couldn't even complete half of the test. I deciphered the underlying meaning of my parents' words that they won't pay for my college, it's time for me to leave this house. And so, after high school, I left home. I'm leaving. As I muttered this and left, not a single family member was there to see me off. I didn't have much money on me. I got on a train without any destination in mind and headed, for some reason, towards the coast. I got off at a station overlooking the sea, and as I aimlessly stared at it, my stomach grumbled. I thought I should eat something, but the feeling of utter hopelessness only grew stronger. I lay down on the beach, curling up. No one would grieve if I die now. Not Dad, Mom, or even Kevin. But then, my body was shaken by someone.
Hey, are you okay?
I opened my eyes to find a girl about middle school age looking at me with concern. I'm sorry, I'm okay. I sat up, and the growl of my empty stomach made me blush.
Did you run away from home?
Before I could think of a response, she took my hand.
We run a hotel. Come eat something, then you can tell me what happened.
I was led to a hotel called Seaside Inn.
Mom, this guy was passed out at the beach. Please, give him something to eat.
The girl called out to an elegant woman in a dress who frowned.
Here, dear, call me Mrs. Collins here. Hungry, are you? Come on over. It's just our staff meal, but if you like to.
She served me a bowl full of fresh seafood. Oh, thank you for preparing the meal for me. I was so captivated by the deliciousness that I eagerly ate with my fork.
So, why were you lying on the beach?
Mrs. Collins asked, and I explained how I ended up here. I was on the brink of despair, thinking I'd have to live on my own from now on. Your daughter brought me here, and you treated me to such a wonderful meal. It made me realize that life is not all bad, and that I should keep pushing forward. Thank you. I expressed my gratitude many times. Mrs. Collins placed her hands on my shoulders.
Hey, how about you working here for us? Also, you can live here.
Hearing this, her daughter brightened up instantly.
Why not?
Touched by the warmth of the two, tears welled up in my eyes. Thank you. I look forward to working with you. From that day, I was given a room in the hotel to live in and began working behind the scenes. My tasks included cleaning guest rooms, hallways, bathrooms, making beds, and other essential tasks that guests wouldn't necessarily see but were crucial. It was hard at first, but Mrs. Collins and the other employees treated me warmly like I was family. The owner chef, who is Mrs. Collins' husband, always made sure I had a hearty meal, saying, "You are still growing, so eat up." Despite his intimidating appearance like a gangster, he was caring and kind-hearted. Mrs. Collins' daughter, named Sarah, often came to the common room of the dormitory after I finished work. I'd help her with homework or we'd play video games together.
You seem more relaxed now compared to when you first came.
Mrs. Collins remarked one day. Looking in the mirror later, I felt she was right. It was all thanks to the kind-hearted people at the hotel. Wanting to give them back, I became even more dedicated to my job. After a few years, I was assigned to work at the front desk. I never thought I could handle interacting with guests, but now I can naturally serve them with a smile. I've been assigned front desk duties. I immediately texted Sarah. She had gone to New York for college to learn about business management for the hotel's future. With Sarah planning to take over Seaside Inn, I was determined to support the hotel wholeheartedly. After graduating, Sarah returned and began working as the young manager.
I want to liven up Seaside Inn even further. Jake, I need your help.
She begged me to discuss how to attract more guests to the hotel. We need to put forth the best of what the hotel has to offer without changing the current facilities. The specialty of Seaside Inn is, of course, the mouth-watering dishes prepared by the owner chef. Until now, meals were served either in rooms or in a large dining hall, so I proposed transitioning the dining hall meals to a buffet style. Also introduced a late-night snack buffet set after 10 p.m. included in the room rate. This new plan was a hit, especially among couples, young families, and groups of friends, filling our bookings months in advance. One day, I was cleaning a guest room. A back-of-house staff member had fallen ill, and we were short on hands, so I decided to help out. I have learned to do various jobs in the hotel, as I proactively offer help wherever it is needed, whether it's the back-of-house team, maids, or the kitchen when we are short-staffed. As I was changing the bed linens, I overheard Mrs. Collins' voice from the corridor.
Your room is right this way.
She was guiding guests. I glanced up to see the guests she was leading, and I was stunned. It was my parents and younger brother. Beside my brother stood a beautiful woman.
Never thought I'd see you here.
He sneered, looking at me with disdain.
You can't do anything but clean at your age. We did right by kicking you out.
My mother mocked, with my brother joining in the ridicule.
Haha, it's so pathetic. I've taken over my dad's business and married the daughter of a renowned businessman. Quite a contrast to you, isn't it?
I clenched my fists tightly. I take pride in my job here. Behind-the-scenes work is essential for a hotel. There's nothing to be ashamed of. These words were not only for myself, but also for everyone at the hotel who had been taking care of me. Suddenly, Mrs. Collins swiftly turned on her heel.
I'm sorry, I mistakenly showed you the wrong place. Please follow me this way. Would you like to join as well, Jake?
Prompted by her, I curiously followed. From our earlier conversation, she should have realized that they are my family. Is she trying to reconcile us as a family?
Right this way.
The place she showed us was the entrance.
What the hell is going on?
My mother, visibly angry, confronted Mrs. Collins, who remained calm.
Jake is not only a valuable employee to us, but also like a family. We will not allow anyone who pressures him, kicks him out of his home, and mocks his feelings to stay in our hotel.
We've already paid our room charges. We have every right to stay here as customers. Jake, who left home on his own, is no longer part of our family.
I felt a surge of anger within me at my father's words. At that moment, I heard footsteps running down the hallway.
Catherine, I entered the room, but you weren't there. What happened?
It was Sarah, the junior landlady. Then, the woman standing next to my younger brother turned to Sarah.
I was so shocked too. Who would have thought that Kevin, my fiancé, and his parents were the family who abandoned Jake?
Sarah and Catherine had been college friends. Sarah had often talked about me to Catherine during their college days. It was Catherine's idea to stay at the hotel today. Catherine firmly addressed Kevin.
I'm breaking off our engagement. I've heard from Sarah about how wonderful a person Jake is. After hearing those harsh words earlier, I understand how poorly your family treated him. I'll report this to my father.
Kevin's face turned pale, and he was at a loss for words. My parents desperately pleaded with her.
Wait, please, Catherine. If we don't get financial assistance from your father, our company will go bankrupt.
Let's calm down. I think there's been some misunderstanding. Let's talk it out, okay?
Kevin, his face flushed, yelled at me.
It's all because of you that my engagement got called off. What are you going to do about it?
My family began hurling insults at me. I felt guilty for causing trouble to Mrs. Collins and Sarah and was worried about potential repercussions.
Get out.
A deep, forceful voice rang out from behind. Turning around, I saw the owner chef, Mr. Bob, glaring menacingly, holding a chef's knife.
If you harm this hotel or Jake, you'll pay the price.
Those words made the three of them gulp, and they hastily left the entrance. Only Catherine stayed behind at the hotel. As planned, she stayed the night after informing her father about the broken engagement and the reasons for it, and enjoyed spending time with her old college friend. Later on, I heard that my father's company went bankrupt since it didn't get any financial assistance from Catherine's father. Kevin, not wanting to bear the debt, left the house. After a while, the hotel received a phone call.
Is Jake Smith working there?
Recognizing the voice, I knew immediately it was my mother. I'm sorry, but Jake Smith doesn't work here. It wasn't a lie when I said that. After all, after marrying Sarah, I took her surname and became Jake Collins. I had already completed the procedures to disclaim any inheritance from my parents. Although I thought she'd recognize my voice immediately, my mother continued to appeal, seemingly oblivious.
Our family has been ruined because of him. He needs to take responsibility and pay off our debt. He's there, isn't he? Put him on the phone.
I could sense the intense hatred directed towards me through the phone. At that moment, Sarah took my phone.
His family is right here, not someone like you. Never call us again.
She sharply rebuked and hung up the call. Then she cheekily stuck out her tongue.
I'm sorry, I acted on my own.
I smiled and shook my head slightly. Why apologize? It was the truth, right? She cried for me and then hugged me tightly. Yes, my precious family was right here. 7 years have passed since then.
Welcome.
Being warmly greeted by Mrs. Collins and her young assistant, the visitor turned out to be Catherine, my younger brother's former fiancée. She came to visit the hotel with her husband and 5-year-old son, Brandon.
Brandon, let's play.
My daughter, Lily, ran up to him, and the two of them, hand in hand, went inside the hotel.
You can take the day off since you have friends over today.
Sarah nodded with a big smile when Mrs. Collins told her this. I'm sure tonight Mr. Bob will serve a sumptuous dinner with all his heart. With that thought, I smiled, cherishing my happiness for the day.
I opened the mailbox to find a postcard, a high school reunion, her. I occasionally meet with close friends from high school, but I hadn't attended a reunion in 10 years. That's because there was someone I didn't want to see. I went to a private all-boys school for the wealthy. To combat declining birth rates, my school merged with a sister all-girls school during my junior year, becoming co-ed, suddenly transitioning from an all-boys environment. Not just me, but all the guys were on edge. Having girls in the classroom changed the atmosphere drastically. It was no longer the sweaty, masculine odor I was accustomed to. Instead, there was this pleasant scent unique to girls, like flowers, something I hadn't noticed in middle school. The girl who sat next to me was named Sarah. She was sweet, often struck up conversations, and before I knew it, I had a crush on her. Later on, Sarah confessed her feelings, and we started dating. After we graduated from high school, Sarah and I went to the same college. However, because we were in different departments, our classes never overlapped. I joined a study group according to my major, while Sarah joined a casual tennis club for fun. Because of this, we'd meet up for lunch at the cafeteria when our schedules matched, and we'd go on dates about twice a month. I had noticed since high school that she was becoming more and more flamboyant as she got into college. She always wanted to go to the latest hotspots and fancy restaurants on our dates. For birthdays and anniversaries, she'd ask for brand name items or jewelry. Busy with my studies, I juggled multiple part-time jobs to try and meet her demands. Friends who saw me like this warned, "William, do you think she's just using you? I feel like Sarah just sees you as a cash cow." While I had a growing suspicion about this as our relationship progressed, a part of me didn't want to accept it. I'd defend her by saying, "She has many good qualities too," and continued our relationship. On our third anniversary of dating, I had made reservations at an upscale restaurant because she begged me to. "Hey, William, we've been together for 3 years. I'd like you to introduce me to your parents." Although we're still college students and not considering marriage, I thought it might be a good idea to introduce her. So, I promised to take her to my home the following weekend. The day I introduced Sarah to my parents, as soon as she saw my family's home, she whispered, "What the?" and stood still. "Come on in," I urged her, and, with some hesitation, she stepped inside. Rather than a look of nervousness, a look of disgust appeared on her face. My parents welcomed her with open arms and tried to strike up various conversations, but Sarah seemed displeased the entire time.
"You're always welcome back,"
said my mom with a warm smile. Just a few steps away, she quickly turned around and shouted,
"What's with that dump? And your dad, isn't he just some regular guy at a company I've never even heard of? I thought that all boys school was all rich kids. What's the deal?"
With feeling disappointed by Sarah revealing her true colors, I explained, "I got a scholarship for that all-boys school, so I pretty much attended for free. By the way, I've got a few scholarships in college too. So, my family isn't rich." Upon hearing that, Sarah was furious.
"What? I feel deceived. If I'd known you were this broke, I wouldn't have dated you."
I watched in shock as an indignant she stormed off. Since then, I have never bumped into Sarah, neither in private nor at college. However, I couldn't help but hear rumors about her switching between different men and targeting the wealthy ones. On the day of the reunion, as I entered the venue, a group of 4 men who were deep in conversation turned to me and waved. "Long time no see." As I waved back with a smile, I was quickly surrounded by them.
"William, finally feel like coming to a reunion, huh?"
"Everyone's here today. We're gonna party hard."
"William, you better join in."
They chimed in together, and I responded with a wry smile, all right, all right." I became close friends with these guys during our freshman year of high school. Initially, I hid the fact that I came from a poor family and relied on scholarships to attend high school. I thought if kids from wealthy families found out at such a school, I'd be bullied. However, even after they learned the truth, their attitudes towards me never changed. On the contrary, they'd say things like, "William, getting a scholarship is impressive. You must be really smart. And while I'm just mooching off my family, you're not burdening yours. That's commendable." I felt blessed to have such good friends. It was them who advised me to break up with Sarah. I regretted not listening more to their advice when she dumped me. We picked up our drinks, shared updates about our lives, and reminisced about high school and college. It felt like we were back in our student days when we were engrossed in old stories. We used to see each other all the time until college, hanging out and drinking, but as we got jobs, our lives became busy and our meetups became less frequent. "Is this the first time we've all been together since Kyle's wedding?" I asked, trying to recall, and Ethan made a mock grumpy face. Ethan has been my best buddy since high school.
Just so you know, you're the one who's been missing. You should show up once in a while.
He draped an arm around my shoulders and gave a light clap. Sorry. I've just been staying at home a lot. That's when a chuckle echoed from behind.
No way, a jobless dude. I mean, coming to a reunion dressed so casually, you do look broke.
Turning to the familiar voice, there stood Sarah, decked out in branded attire with flashy makeup, looking down on me condescendingly.
Being jobless after college, such a loser. Hey, did you know his home is super rundown, struggling to afford high school and taking student loans. So poor it's cringe-worthy. Can't believe I dated this guy. What a dark chapter of my life. Back wasted 3 years.
Her mocking laughter infuriated Ethan.
Hey, cut the crap. William now is.
He was about to charge at her with clenched fists, but I held him back. Ethan, let it go. I intervened, and Ethan shot her a resentful glare before looking away. She was momentarily taken aback when she thought she was about to be hit, but she quickly returned to her previous insolent attitude.
Why don't you losers just stick together? I'm going to be grabbing happiness unlike you guys.
She smirked, then rushed over to a man holding a big bag with a brand logo on it. She still seems to be boy hunting even at this age. The good times flew by, and it was almost time to wrap up the reunion. Who should take care of the bill?
Why not leave it to the organizer? Ethan, how much per person?
Hearing these comments from the classmates, Ethan made a sour face.
I like organizing events, but I'm not great at collecting money.
I chuckled and called out to him, well, I'll take care of it then. I didn't do anything to help with the reunion. As I was walking through the venue asking a staff member for the bill, Sarah came over again.
There's no way someone unemployed like you can afford the reunion fees, right? Can't borrow money since your family is broke too, right? Trying to play the cashier to cover your own costs. Pathetic.
Keep ignoring her. She shot me a sour look.
Hey, don't ignore me. So annoying.
Just then, a staff member came over to me with the receipt. Seeing that, the rest of the classmates flocked over.
Oh, the bill's here. Everyone pay William.
Hey, how much is it?
I took the receipt from the staff member and checked the amount. It's surprisingly affordable. Well then, I'll cover the bill for this one. Pulling out a credit card from my pocket, I placed it on the tray. Suddenly, the whole venue started buzzing.
Wait, isn't that a black card?
And it's a centurion. Seriously? It's my first time seeing a real one.
What I had presented was the Centurion card, a credit card known to be held only by the very wealthy, even among the elite black cards. As expected from an alumnus of a prestigious all-boys school, they knew their stuff.
Wow, William, that's amazing.
How rich are you, man?
What do you even do now?
All the eyes of our classmates were suddenly on me. Ethan stepped in front of me, boasting to Sarah.
He started an IT-related company while in college, and he's been raking in a significant amount working from home. He's on a different level than us.
I nudged the brooding Ethan. What's the heir to the massive Johnson Real Estate, which has branches not just here, but overseas, talking about? Ethan shot me a displeased look.
I'm just a vice president for now. I've still got a long way to reach CEO level like you.
Not just Ethan, but the other 3 guys were also heirs to big corporations and some of my top clients. I never imagined my school friends would become my business partners as adults. Sarah was shaking, staring at me in disbelief. Leaving the venue, she rushed after me in a panic.
Hey, wait a minute. Please, I need to talk.
Her demeanor had shifted dramatically, now portraying the innocent and endearing heroine.
After we broke up, William, you never reached out. I was so lonely, and so I ended up saying things I didn't even think. I'm sorry, but it's because I've never been able to forget you. I've always loved you.
I could sense my buddies behind me trying to hold back their laughter, but I bit my lip, suppressing my own amusement to seriously listen to her. She grabbed both my arms and shook them, looking up with teary eyes.
I've always regretted breaking up with you. I want to give it another shot with you. Please, can we get back together? This time, I'll cherish you, I promise.
It's astonishing how some women can easily flip their attitudes when they find out a guy they'd looked down on is actually good-looking or has money and status. Of course, not all women are like that, but she surely is. Thank you. When I said that with a smile, her face instantly lit up. She probably thinks I've fallen for her trick. Before she could say anything, I cut her off and continued. It's because of women like you, always after money, that I became wary during my college years. Even after achieving success, I've been cautious of women drawn to me for my wealth and status. I've never been taken in. And that's all thanks to your rotten character. Seriously, thank you. I'm truly grateful. As soon as I finished, my 4 buddies behind me couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. That was a bit much. Sarah's face turned a deep shade of red, and she exploded in anger.
How dare you humiliate me like that?
I replied nonchalantly. Who's the real shameless one here? Ethan, still laughing, popped his head out and informed her.
You know, William's outfit you were mocking as too casual? It's from a top Italian brand and costs thousands of dollars. You might want to brush up on your fashion knowledge.
She felt even more ridiculed. I never want to see you again. She snapped back and stormed off. Who knows if she'll continue chasing men for their money and status, or if she'll eventually seek genuine love. Chances are, we won't be hearing about her anytime soon.
Well then, let's head to the after party.
Ethan's voice echoed in the distance.
I've recently invested in a bar around here. Want to check it out?
Sounds great.
Come on, William.
Hearing my name called, I was suddenly snapped back to reality. Yay. I replied briefly and joined the group. Thinking back to high school, even when they knew I was poor, they remained friends. Even now, as they've become successful and wealthy, their bond hasn't changed. It warms my heart to think of such unwavering friendship. Gotta make sure I cherish moments like this and not get too wrapped up in the hustle. With those thoughts, I walked toward the bar with them. In my 26 years of life, I've never been popular with the ladies. Maybe it's because I'm an only child, but I've been a shy, indecisive person who can't express my thoughts clearly since I was a kid. In my school days, I was a loner and was ruthlessly bullied. I've never had a real friend. A girlfriend, of course, is nothing more than a distant dream. Girls usually find me creepy and avoid me, so there's no chance for me to experience romance. However, I am a healthy young man, and it would be a lie to say that I haven't had a crush on a girl or two. I, of course, don't have the courage to ask someone out, and I'm satisfied just watching them from a distance. That summer, when I was in the 11th grade, a girl from my class invited me out. The night before, I was too excited to sleep, and on the day, I carefully checked my hair and outfit. We were supposed to meet in front of the train station. Despite it being an extremely hot day at the peak of summer, I arrived about 30 minutes early. I couldn't help but laugh at my own eagerness. What will we talk about when she arrives? Where should we go? I went over the day's plan in my head. Despite standing in the scorching heat and breaking out in a sweat, my heart was leaping at the beginning of what felt like my first real taste of youth. But she didn't show up. 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I texted her but got no response. I was terribly worried that something might have happened to her, but I lost my nerve to go to her house and announced. I felt like I was going to faint from heat stroke and took refuge in the train station. Then, a group of high school boys and girls came out from the ticket gates. Among them, I was shocked to see her, chatting with her friends and arm in arm with the star of the soccer team. "Hey Sarah, what's up? Did you forget we were supposed to meet?" I asked in confusion, to which she looked surprised for a moment before bursting into laughter.
You didn't seriously think I meant it, did you? It was just a joke, dummy.
With a cruel smirk, she was drawn into a hug by that handsome, sunburned star of the soccer club.
No one's gonna give the time of day to a loser like you.
Everyone burst into laughter. In response to my stunned silence, Sarah said, "I only invited you as a penalty game. Don't get the wrong idea." I don't remember much after that. I staggered home and collapsed on my bed, eventually had a fever, even though I loved her so much. Sarah had only asked me out as part of a penalty game, and within that day, she had completely forgotten about her promise to me. Heartbroken by the harsh betrayal of the girl I liked, I shed tears of frustration. A traumatic experience during my high school days had made me incredibly shy and fearful when it came to romance. During my college days, I spent most of my time not interacting with others, and at the company I had barely managed to join, I continued to avoid contact with women as much as possible. I really wanted to fall in love, to spend joyful moments with a girl, to form a loving relationship and build a happy family. But as my fantasies grew, so did my frustration at my hesitation to act and my inferiority complex. On my way to and from work, I would see couples and feel a pang of envy and jealousy. Upon returning to my apartment, I would go straight to bed in a huff. I figured there was no one out there who would ever fall for someone like me. I was content to remain single for the rest of my life. However, fate works in mysterious ways, and finally, luck found its way to me. One day, I found a wallet on the subway during my commute. It was a lady's wallet. I turned it in to the station attendant, and a few days later, I received a call from the owner of that wallet. Her name was Lisa, and she apparently worked as an office worker in a company in downtown New York. She asked me to meet her at a cafe so she could thank me in person, and when I arrived, a beautiful woman with medium-length hair was waiting for me at a table. It's embarrassing, but it was love at first sight. Lisa got up to thank me and then we moved on to small talk. I was extremely nervous, but Lisa was a good talker and time flew by. I was too flustered to remember most of our conversation, but her bright smile, which blew away my shyness, is something I will never forget. We exchanged phone numbers at the end of the day, and this led to us meeting once a week at the cafe. Our workplaces were not far apart, and the cafe was conveniently located halfway, making it easy to meet in our spare time. I was aware that I was becoming attracted to her every time we met, but I couldn't take that final step. The bitter experience from my high school days made me think that it would be the same result, futile to have any expectations. I thought to myself, isn't it enough to just be friends? What are you unsatisfied with? Do you want to ruin the current relationship? One day, as I was struggling with my indecisiveness, she muttered something while looking at her phone at the cafe.
I've been interested in this movie.
She was looking at a new Hollywood romantic comedy, and it starred one of my favorite actors. The premiere is next week, and I felt destiny. If I didn't act now, I would regret it forever. As soon as I got home, I reserved a pair of tickets on my computer, When I invited her to the movie, my friend gave me tickets to that movie you mentioned. Would you like to go with me? She enthusiastically agreed.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's our first date.
Popo, yay, I guess it is.
Just don't be late. I hate being kept waiting. I've always been impatient.
No worries, I'll be there early. Because Lisa, self-proclaimed as clumsy and prone to losing things, I decided to keep the tickets until the day of the movie. We are planning to meet up in front of the movie theater, where I'll hand over the tickets. Well, she does have a history of accidentally dropping her wallet on the train, so there's no room for objections. Funny enough, that incident was the one that brought us together, so I will be punished if I do not appreciate it. On the day of our first date, I'm all geared up and ready to go. High school memories, unpleasant as they may be, resurface, but I didn't let that stop me. I kept moving forward, only looking ahead. I didn't forget the tickets, did I? I checked my pockets several times and couldn't help but smile as I imagined the good times we'll have at the movies. This could be my first real date in 26 years of life. I've decided to share my feelings once we got out of the movie theater. The sequence might be a bit reversed, but who cares? I've already picked out the perfect restaurant to express my feelings towards her. According to the reviews, the night view from the windows is stunning. I couldn't wait to show her.
Oof.
When I turned towards the groaning sound behind me, I found an old lady with white hair collapsed on the ground. Are you okay?
I don't know. I just suddenly felt a pain in my chest.
The old lady who fell on the sidewalk seems quite old. I looked around in confusion, but the passers-by just avoided getting involved and continued on their way. The location was a bustling downtown on the weekend, where everyone seemed to have plans, from dates to family outings.
Please, don't worry about me. You must be in a hurry. My son will come pick me up, so don't worry.
I can't just leave you who's looking so pale. I helped the old lady up and took her somewhere she could sit, then called an ambulance on my phone. I decided to stay with her, comforting her, stroking her back until the ambulance arrives.
Thank you.
Don't force yourself to talk. I felt frustrated that there's so little I can do. As Lisa's waiting face crossed my mind, I started to compose an apology and explanation for being late when the old lady gasped and clutched her chest. Well, I dropped my phone. The screen cracks when it hits the ground, making it unable to send the message. I'm relieved that I called the ambulance before this happened, but the next moment I broke out in a cold sweat at the realization that I could contact Lisa.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry. How can I possibly apologize for this?
Don't worry about it. It'll be fixed soon.
Won't you be inconvenienced without it? Don't you have someone to contact?
Actually, I have a date today. It's our first date and we have plans to see a movie together. When I mentioned the movie title, her face lighted up.
Oh, congratulations. In that case, I really shouldn't keep you. Please, go on without me.
Despite her urging, she looked pale and her breathing was labored. If I were to leave her, I fear she might collapse immediately. Right now, you need to focus on yourself. As I continued comforting her, who kept apologizing, with a firm smile, the ambulance finally arrived. Just as the paramedics arrived and she was being loaded onto the stretcher, the paramedics said, "It's okay now." I was honestly relieved. I had lifted my head, thinking if I ran at full speed I could make it, and when I was about to walk away from the ambulance,
Tom.
The old lady suddenly had a fit and began clawing at her chest. She was panting heavily, her face as pale as a ghost, and irregular convulsions had started. Seeing her continuously calling out Tom, Tom, probably her son's name, I got into the ambulance.
I can't breathe. I'm scared, Tom. What's going to happen to me?
It's okay, Mom, I'm right here. I quickly held the hand of the old lady who was on the verge of losing consciousness and played the role of her son on the spur of the moment. I kept talking to her until the ambulance arrived at the hospital and she was taken to the intensive care unit on a stretcher. After she disappeared into the ICU, I turned on my heels once her condition stabilized. Finally, I was able to leave her to the doctors, and I wanted to meet Lisa quickly. She might have gone home angry, but I couldn't rest until I had gone to her. I ran like a madman, and when I finally arrived at the movie theater, Lisa was standing there with an expressionless face. 3 hours had passed since the appointed time.
As I told you, I hate being kept waiting.
I desperately explained the situation, but Lisa kept a stern face and seemed to turn a deaf ear to my words.
Even if you really were helping someone, you could have sent a single message, right? I couldn't go in first because you had the tickets.
My phone was broken, please believe me. I was thinking about you the whole time I came here. Desperate to make her understand, I showed her my cracked phone, but she dismissed it with a shake of her hand.
You could have used a payphone, right? How stupid.
It was just a joke, dummy. Sarah's mocking laughter mixed with Lisa's words, and I felt my energy to defend myself drain away. Indeed, it was my fault that I didn't use a payphone. The spread of smartphones and the reduced number of payphones isn't an excuse. There was a phone at the hospital, but I overlooked it because I was obsessed with her. I was so eager to see her, to apologize to her, I didn't notice anything else.
You said you'd be the first one there.
Her face twisted in sorrow.
I can't be with someone who can't even keep a promise on a first date and messes up big time.
She left without looking back. I was dumped before I could express my feelings. What a disaster! From that day, my pleasure in my free time vanished. Even after several attempts to message her with my repaired phone, I was ignored and my mood sank to rock bottom. I shouldn't have overdone it. Maybe if I had left that old lady to someone else, Lisa wouldn't have gotten fed up with me. Even after several months from the heartbreak, I was still sulking and couldn't forget about Lisa. As I returned from work and was absently watching TV, an unexpected thing happened. It was a program in search of people, hosted by a popular comedian.
Now, let's introduce this person next.
Prompted by the host, a middle-aged man dressed in a fine suit entered. He was holding a sketchbook in his hand. The host introduced him as the president of a large corporation in the city, New York. I even know that company.
Who are you looking for today?
It's the kind person who helped my mother when she collapsed in town. I don't know his name or profession, but I clearly remember his face. My mother drew it.
Your mother is good at drawing, isn't she?
She studied it in the past, and she bragged from her bed, saying my portrait drawing skill is as good as a professional's.
He opened the sketchbook, and my face was drawn on it.
He's a very fine young man. While everyone around pretended not to see, only he stopped and offered a hand to my mother, despite the fact that he had made a promise to see a movie on his first date with a woman who could be his girlfriend.
He even mentioned the title of the movie and kept expressing his gratitude to me. Things I've done to her, like I accompanied her to the hospital pretending to be her son, kept encouraging her until she was taken to the intensive care unit. That's how she barely managed to hold on.
If anyone knows him, please contact us. There is a reward. We are also waiting for direct contact from him. My mother and I would like to meet him directly and say thank you.
I didn't give my name or contact information to the hospital. After all, I was just a passerby. If the old lady could just be saved, I didn't expect any more reward. That's what I thought. Tom, you're a good son. The moment I turned off the TV out of embarrassment, the phone I had thrown on the coffee table rang. The familiar name Lisa was displayed. Could it be? When I nervously swiped it, I heard her gentle voice for the first time in several months.
It's been a while. How have you been?
I've been good. I'm glad you seem to be doing well, too. After about 5 minutes of awkward conversation, suddenly her voice trembled and choked.
I saw the TV show. I'm sorry I didn't believe you.
She sobbed over the phone and then dropped a bomb. The man who appeared in the show earlier was the president of her company. She knew the president was looking for the lifesaver of his mother and was soliciting information on a national TV show, but she didn't think to connect that with me until this very moment.
I was just frustrated for 3 hours. But you spent 3 hours saving that old lady, didn't you?
I was forgiven by her, my eyes welled up, and I cried out loud. After that, I was introduced to the two of them through Lisa, and was embarrassed by their exaggerated words of gratitude.
Thank you very much for accompanying my mother on my behalf.
In the envelope they handed to me, there were a pair of tickets.
I was able to get good seats.
I would like to hear your impressions later.
After being told by the old lady and the president, my first date with Lisa was happily reset. My name is John Harrison. I'm 25 years old. I like to think of myself as the ace of the sales department. Right now, I'm working overtime, creating materials for an internal competition organized by the planning department. Thanks for the help, Bob. After saying this, Bob replied, "You owe me a drink," with a chuckle. Bob and I have been rivals since we first joined the company, always competing for the number of contracts secured. Bob, the salesman par excellence, was kind enough to offer his help.
This project is shaping up nicely. I think we might just win first prize.
I was pretty confident about this project myself. The competition presentation is a week from now. I and my boss, Director Sarah Thompson, have been chosen to represent the sales department. Director Thompson is a woman who has advanced sales skills that I admire.
Therefore, going up against Director Thompson is a bit concerning.
Bob echoed the same concern I had in my heart. Yeah, Director Thompson is so competent at her job, I might actually lose.
Don't be so timid. It's a project I've helped with, so you better get that first prize.
Laughing, I gave Bob a friendly pat on the back to show my agreement. I submitted my completed project data to Director Thompson for review. When she praised it for being well done, I became even more confident in my project. I felt bad for Director Thompson, but I was convinced that I would be the one to win the first prize. I believed it without a doubt. The day of the competition, I was to present right after Director Thompson. I was curious and excited about what kind of project she would present. Director Thompson started her presentation, and upon hearing her presentation, I was at a loss for words. The content of Director Thompson's presentation was strikingly similar to mine. This can't be happening. I was unsure of what to do next. Although Director Thompson's project was similar, it was not entirely my idea. There was also no proof that she had plagiarized my project. As soon as Director Thompson saw me, she quickly averted her gaze. I used to admire her. I was suddenly filled with despair. I couldn't possibly present a project that was so similar to Director Thompson's, but in a room full of executives, I couldn't accuse her of stealing my idea without any proof either. As expected, when I did present, being right after Director Thompson and presenting a similar project, the company's executives looked at me with suspicious eyes. That day, seeing me so down, Bob invited me for a drink. That's when I told him about Director Thompson. I couldn't believe it, but it was clear plagiarism.
What? Really? Director Thompson? She doesn't need to stoop so low.
I wish I could believe that too, but that project was mine. Bob seemed to not believe what I was saying. He might have thought it was just my sore loser attitude. Bob offered to treat me to drinks, so I drank to my heart's content. The next day, while nursing a hangover, I came to work and all my colleagues in the sales department were staring at me. Huh, what's going on? Before I could get an answer, Bob pulled me aside.
You're being suspected of plagiarism.
What? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why me? Shouldn't it be Director Thompson?
You've been accused of plagiarizing Director Thompson's project proposal. It's so similar to yours. That's why you've been assigned to Warehouse 1. There's an order for your transfer.
I couldn't find the words to reply to Bob's statement. Warehouse 1? That's where the demoted ones end up. Me, there? There's no point in arguing now. It would only sound like an excuse. I don't want to stoop to making excuses. I've decided to comply with the order and transfer to Warehouse 1. I'm John Harrison, assigned to Warehouse 1 starting today. Pleased to meet you. As I introduce myself, a sparse and disinterested round of applause emerges. In Warehouse 1, inventory management is the main job. Unenthusiastic, middle-aged men are going about their work sluggishly. The only one willing to teach me is the lone woman, a part-time worker, a woman named Mary Davis who's 3 years my senior. Please, I look forward to working with you. As I bow my head, Mary studies me for a moment. Is there something on my face? When I ask, Mary looks as if she wants to say something. Could it be? Is something wrong? At my question, Mary laughs off. No, it's nothing. While silently working on warehouse duties, I occasionally converse with Mary. Mary said she enjoys simple tasks and keeps working if left alone. So, I started to remind her to take a break. When I hand her a can of coffee, she always thanks me. We spend our break times together in the warehouse's break room. Mary, why are you working part-time in a place like this? I voice my honest thoughts. It's not a judgment, but it does feel strange that she's 28 and working part-time here, especially when she seems competent. I'm intrigued why someone like her is working part-time in such a place.
I enjoy monotonous work.
With that, I couldn't question her any further. But isn't it too slow-paced here?
True, the lack of work is a downside. We're more than enough to handle everything.
Mary chuckles. Indeed, the other employees hardly seem to work. No surprise, considering this is where the demoted ones end up. I could have given in to despair and quit working, but I hope to return to the sales division someday. That's what I was thinking. It's intolerable to be wrongly accused, demoted, and end up falling off the ladder. I love my job in sales.
Were you in the sales division before, John?
I nod at Mary's words. Yes, I was. But I was accused of plagiarism in a recent project competition and got demoted. There's no point in hiding it, and I'm not at fault, so I don't feel embarrassed.
Plagiarism.
In reality, I was the one whose work was plagiarized. With that, I sip my coffee. I suppose my words as a demoted employee won't be easily believed.
What does that mean? I'm curious.
At her direct question, I laugh and nod. After explaining the whole story briefly, she fell silent, her face serious. Mary, what's wrong? When I asked, Mary gave a warm smile and looked at me.
John, let's go for drinks today.
Those unexpected words surprised me, but remembering about the plagiarism incident, I was feeling like having a drink. That sounds nice. Shall we go? At my words, Mary nodded enthusiastically. After finishing work on time, Mary and I decided to have a drink at a pub near the office. Cheers, we toasted, and I gulped down my beer. What did you want to talk about? As I asked this, nibbling on some edamame, Mary said, about the plagiarism, and her face became serious. Not knowing whether it was because no one had ever listened to her before, or because she was fueled by alcohol, she became talkative and talked about that day.
So, Director Thompson stole your idea, didn't she, John?
Well, that's just my side of the story. I thought that if I had spoken up at that time, things might have been different, but Director Thompson is trusted by the people in the department. So, I figured no one would listen to what I had to say.
Don't you have any evidence that you were plagiarized?
The only evidence I have is my data, but that can be explained away as having been revised later. Nobody would ever think that the director would steal someone's idea. Mary, saying I see, took a sip of her lemon-flavored gin and tonic. Mary? At the sound of my voice, Mary made a surprised face, then quickly turned into a smile.
John, I'm sorry. I just remembered something urgent. Let's call it a night.
Caught off guard by her sudden proposal, I told her that I would stay a little longer and drink alone, and we parted ways. Honestly, I couldn't believe that Director Thompson had stolen my idea. I used to respect her as a boss. As I murmured, my smartphone vibrated suddenly. When I looked at the display, it was from Bob. Oh, Bob, what's up? Bob, as usual, seemed to be concerned about me. And then, he dropped a bombshell. According to Bob, the president's daughter is working part-time at Warehouse 1. There's only one woman who works part-time, and that's Mary. That can't be true, can it? However, my words were negated. After hanging up, I was stunned for a while. Why is the president's daughter in Warehouse 1, where all the transferred staff are? And I'd been acting so casual with her, taking breaks together, even drinking with her just now, without knowing she was the president's daughter. That can't be true. Tomorrow, I'll check with Mary. Maybe Bob misunderstood something. I finished my remaining beer and decided to head home. The next day, I asked Mary directly. Mary, you're not the president's daughter, right? That's a lie, right? At my words, Mary turned around, looking surprised. Then, she opened her mouth with a smile.
Didn't I tell you? That's right. My father is the president of this company.
I was so shocked by her words that I could do nothing but stand there stunned. On my desk, there was a cardboard box and a note that said to the sales department. I let out a small groan. I guess I'm supposed to take this box to the sales department. But I don't want to go there. I was demoted from that department. I look around to see if anyone else can go instead of me. But no one would meet my gaze, leaving me feeling at a loss. Oh, where's Mary? Looking for Mary, an elderly employee told me that Mary was taking the day off. What a shock. So, with a heavy heart, I loaded the cardboard box into the car and headed for the head office. Standing in front of the head office, I let out a big sigh. I was hesitant to go to the sales department, but it was part of the job, so it couldn't be helped. With the cardboard box in my hands, I stepped into the sales department.
Up, John.
Bob called out to me, and somehow I managed to greet him with a smile. Oh, I was told to take this to the sales department. Saying that, I pushed the cardboard box onto Bob.
Wait a second, John.
As I was about to leave the office and open the door, Mary was right in front of me, which surprised me. Hup, Mary, aren't you off today?
Oh, John, good timing. Could you spare a moment?
With that, Mary smiled, and standing next to her was none other than the company president. Per president, good afternoon. Surprised, I bowed and greeted him. The president nodded with a gentle expression.
John, could you come here for a moment?
Mary grabbed my arm, and I was taken to the sales department office.
Good afternoon. Is Director Thompson here?
Mary's big, beautiful voice echoed throughout the office. Director Thompson rose from her seat with a puzzled look on her face.
I'm Director Thompson. Can I help you?
When Director Thompson saw me, she made a grim face, but as soon as she spotted the president, she bowed and said, "Good afternoon." At Director Thompson's voice, the entire sales department also bowed and greeted. The president told the other employees to continue with your work, and the atmosphere in the sales department office became tense.
I am Mary Davis, the head of the Employee Consultation Office. Director Thompson, are you aware of the plagiarism allegations against you?
My mind went blank at Mary's words. The fact that Mary was the head of the consultation office, and the fact that there were plagiarism allegations against Director Thompson. I was overwhelmed by the amount of information and fell into a state of confusion.
What? I would never do such a thing.
Director Thompson, who shouted angrily, was shifting her gaze.
We have evidence right here. We recently inspected the company computer you use.
What?
Director Thompson's face darkened.
We compared the data save history of John and your proposal's data save history. It turned out that John's idea was created first. This implies that you plagiarized his idea.
The color drained from Director Thompson's face. Mary, approaching Director Thompson's desk, picked up her laptop.
Shall we check it one more time?
Upon hearing her words, Director Thompson collapsed on the spot.
John's proposal was so good, I thought I'd lose to my subordinate if I didn't do something.
Director Thompson's voice echoed in the silent room.
So you admit to it, then? We'll inform you of the penalty at a later date.
I couldn't keep up with the rapid development, but I knew I'd regret it if I didn't speak up now. Can we at least arrange for her to stay in the sales department? The president, with a puzzled look on his face, began to speak.
Why would anyone do this? Stealing something that people have put their time and effort into creating is unacceptable in our society. It's even worse for someone who is supposed to be a mentor to employees. You must be upset too, right?
Indeed, I was upset. But I wondered, if Director Thompson ended up demoted like me, would she quit her job? Sure, I'm frustrated that the award was stolen from me, and I'm not completely forgiving for the humiliation. But I don't want Director Thompson to quit her job in sales. So, can't you stay in sales as you are? Isn't it punishment enough for Director Thompson to work in this sales department while facing the reality that she plagiarized? After a little thought, the president said, "All right," and decided to put off the punishment. Director Thompson apologized to me in tears. Director Thompson, it's all in the past. Let's start over. At my words, Director Thompson started crying even more, and I was at a loss. Everyone in the sales department seemed unable to keep up with the sudden developments. They were dumbfounded.
John, shall we head home for now?
Mary suggested, and we left the sales department together. Thank you, Mary. let me treat you to lunch by thanking you." With that, Mary said, "Well, I won't be shy," and laughed, and we went into a nearby cafe. After finishing lunch, on our way to the car, a gust of wind blew up Mary's skirt. I spotted a burn scar on Mary's slender leg, and I recognized the scar. I remember, in middle school, there was a fire and I rescued a high school girl who went into the flames to save a cat that couldn't escape in time. At that time, the high school girl had burns on her leg, and I had burns on my arm. Mary, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but didn't you go into a burning house to save a cat when you were in high school? Hearing my words, Mary chuckled.
You're slow to notice.
Eh? I blinked at Mary's words. Mary, did you know it was me?
I noticed the first time we went. It's terrible to forget, especially when remembering people's faces is part of our job in sales.
I was drawn to Mary's innocent laughter and laughed along. I never thought we would meet again like this. Mary nodded at my words.
You haven't changed at all, John. You've always been impulsive.
Feeling a little teased, I responded in annoyance. You're just as impulsive, Mary. Going into a fire to save a cat. We both burst out laughing at each other's words. You never know where fate will take you. A week later, the decision was made to demote Director Thompson and reduce her salary. Just as I had hoped, there was no transfer from the sales department. Hearing this, I let out a sigh of relief. As for me, I was able to return to the sales department and I'm passionately dedicated to my work. And, thanks to a past connection, my relationship with Mary has grown much closer, and we are now dating. Mary is strong-willed and has strong sense of justice, and I like that about her. There have been times when I was disappointed after being betrayed by someone I respected. But I was once again reminded that life is not to be discarded. If I hadn't been demoted, I wouldn't have met Mary. I am committed to my work and my relationship with her and plan to keep striving for success. I'm Tom Anderson. During my sophomore year in high school, my parents were suddenly killed in an accident. Their car had a head-on collision with a truck. They both died instantly. At the funeral, I couldn't tell whether some of my relatives approached me out of genuine concern or because they were eyeing the inheritance. They talked about taking me in. I remained utterly calm. Even after suddenly losing my parents, I didn't shed a single tear. I declined the offers from my relatives and decided to live on my own. I got by on the modest inheritance from my parents and the money I made from my part-time job. My high school classmates, having heard from the teacher, would ask me, "Are you okay?" I'd paste a smile on my face and say, "I'm fine. You know, if I'm down, it'll just worry my parents more." I sold the condo I used to live in with my parents and moved to a small one-room apartment. My relatives took care of settling the inheritance. I guess they were concerned about me. Either way, I was thankful, since I had no clue how to handle the inheritance. For some reason, I only kept a photo of the three of us, a family picture, and slipped it into my pocket as I moved into the shabby old apartment, my new home. I planned on getting a job after high school. I'd been scraping by with my part-time job, so the thought of pursuing further education had vanished. But things weren't that simple. After graduating, my high school teacher introduced me to a few job openings, but none of them panned out. I continued working part-time job and kept going to the employment office, constantly searching for a full-time job. Even if the conditions weren't ideal, I believed I could get by on my own. Looking back, I think half of it came from my pure stubbornness. Unable to openly express the grief of suddenly losing my parents, I buried that pain with job hunting. One day, I came across a job posting from a company with pretty good terms and conditions and managed to pass the initial paper screening. I was set up for an interview. It had been a while since I made it this far. I thought to myself, there's no way I'm failing this. The morning of the interview day, I slipped into the suit I bought with my parents' inheritance money and, with my still unsteady hands, tied the tie. Today, I'm definitely getting the deal. I pumped myself up as I tied my freshly polished shoes. Walking to the station, I simulated in my mind how I'd handle the Q&A during the interview. Oh no! Even though I checked multiple times, I'd left my cell phone at home. I rushed back the way I came. As the old apartment complex came into view, I halted. Is that a young girl? She sat on the apartment stairs, covering her face with her hands. Was she crying? Since my apartment was on the second floor, it seemed I couldn't pass without addressing the girl. I checked the time. I still had a while. What happened, little one? I asked, and the girl jolted, nervously looking up. Upon closer inspection, there were scraped marks on both her knees. They were bleeding, looking quite painful. Did you get hurt? I asked, and the girl nodded with tears in her eyes. Just wait here. For some reason, I just couldn't leave her like that. I dashed to a nearby convenience store to buy some first aid supplies. To be honest, I didn't really have the extra cash. But I still wanted to help that little girl. Returning to the apartment, she noticed my footsteps and quickly looked up. Sorry to keep you waiting. Let's clean up that wound first. It might sting a bit, okay. I hesitated, wondering if I should bring her into my apartment. Would she think I'm some creep? My apartment's right upstairs. Can I treat your wound there? I asked, and the girl finally spoke.
My mom said not to follow strangers, but it really hurts.
She seemed uncertain. Okay, how about we introduce ourselves? Then we're not strangers anymore, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm Tom Anderson.
I'm Jessica?
I brought Jessica into my apartment, leaving the front door open so she'd feel at ease. I mean, it'd be scary if a stranger just invited you into their place. While treating her, Jessica occasionally winced from the pain, but she bravely bore it. Once done, she hesitated and said, Tom, thank you for taking care of me. It warmed my heart just a bit. Suddenly checking the time, I realized there was no way I'd make it to the interview. I called to apologize to the interviewer, and the opportunity slipped away. I sighed, but looking at Jessica's brighter face, I thought, well, there's always next time. After that, when I listened to Jessica's story, I found out she had traveled a great distance to get here. She wanted to see her workaholic mom, and it seems she hopped on a train. Turns out, she got on the opposite train from her mom's office, and before she realized, she was in a completely unfamiliar place. I can't handle this on my own. I decided to take Jessica to the nearest police station. After that, it was decided that Jessica would go to the police department, but she seemed scared and held my hand tightly, refusing to let go. So, I ended up going with her as the one who found her. The police managed to get in touch with Jessica's mother. Wait here until your mom comes, said the female officer. I was told I could leave, but when Jessica heard that, she grabbed my hand again and wouldn't let go. So I decided to wait until her mother came to pick her up.
Jessica.
It was pitch black outside, and when I checked the time, it was already past 7 p.m. Jessica, a woman who seemed to be her mother, shouted and ran towards us, embracing Jessica tightly.
Oh, thank God. Jessica.
Mom? I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Tears streamed down Jessica's face. She must have been holding back, trying to be strong all this time. That's a relief, I thought to myself.
Were you the one who helped Jessica?
While holding Jessica tightly, her mom turned to me and said, "Oh, not really. I just helped with her injury," I replied. "But you came all this way with her. I think she must have felt lonely. And I apologize for being late to pick her up," Jessica's mom said apologetically. "Oh, I'm fine. I was really free anyway." Her deep bow caught me off guard. "My name is Karen Smith. May I ask your name?" Karen said. Quickly, Jessica, nestled in her arms, chimed in with a smile. "That's Tom." Yes, I'm Tom Anderson," I replied with a grin. Karen's face froze in surprise. "Anderson." While I looked puzzled, after a moment, Karen hesitantly asked, "I might be mistaken, but do you know a lady named May Anderson?" "What?" I was taken aback. "That was my mom's name." Stunned, I responded, "That's my mother." Karen's eyes widened in amazement.
What a coincidence.
Listening to her story, I was struck by an astonishing fact. Years ago, when Jessica was still inside Karen's womb, my mom had come to her rescue. Karen, about to be hit by a motorcyclist who ignored the traffic light at a crosswalk, was pulled to safety by my mom. My mom took the brunt of it, protecting Karen with her body. While my mom ended up with some bruises, thankfully that was the extent of it. Grateful, Karen wanted to thank her, so she asked for my mom's contact information. I remember now. Back in the day, an unexpected luxury item arrived at our house, and the three of us were in awe. Reading the letter that came with it, my mom had a wry smile. Later, she enthusiastically wrote a reply, saying I should send something back.
We used to write to each other, but her letters stopped coming a few years ago.
I bit my lip and looked down. Though I should be honest to talk what happened to this person. I told her everything, how both of my parents had passed away in an accident years ago.
Oh my God.
Karen looked devastated. My mom always rushed to help others, and that's probably why she saved you that day. And she always enjoyed exchanging letters, I said, and Karen broke down in tears.
Mama, are you okay?
Seeing Jessica worriedly patting Karen's head, I felt a deep pang of sympathy.
I'm so sorry. You must have been the one who's hurt the most, and here I am, a complete stranger, getting so flustered.
After a while, when Karen stopped crying, she said that to me. No, it's all right. I'm already in high school, after all. And Dad was always busy with work, and Mom might have been there for others, but maybe she didn't care about me. I couldn't help but let my true feelings slip. It was something I had felt since childhood. Then, it hit me. Why does Mom always help others? Why is Dad always at work? Do they not care about me? I remember being a kid, crying alone with my knees hugged to my chest. It was just like how I saw Jessica today. That's why I couldn't just walk away. Because she looked just like the younger me. After a sad look, Karen said, "That's not true, I promise. Since it's getting late, would you like to come over to our house another day? Jessica would be thrilled."
Wow. Is Tom coming over to our place?
Seeing Jessica's beaming smile, I could only nod in agreement. A few days later, when I was invited to Jessica's home, my mouth dropped open in shock.
Well, look who's here. Come on in.
From a beautifully manicured garden, Karen appeared. I wonder if it's okay for me to be invited to such a mansion.
Hey, Tom's here.
Jessica popped her head out with a joyous expression, and I sighed in relief.
This is a letter from May.
All of these. As I was led into the living room, a table lay before me, covered with dozens of letters. I picked up one of the letters and Karen kindly handed it over to me, saying, "Please, give it a read." Inside, there was so much written about me.
We always worry about Tom. Tom is our pride and joy. He's grown into such a caring and kind young man.
Before I knew it, I was sobbing uncontrollably. Even at the funeral, and during the tough times that followed, I never shed a tear. But now, all of a sudden, my tears wouldn't stop for quite some time. They finally ceased after about an hour, which was probably years' worth of tears I had been holding back. I'm sorry. Blushing with embarrassment for crying so openly, Karen smiled at me and said, "It's okay. I'm glad I could tell you. I'm also relieved. I always misunderstood my parents." Then we chatted about Jessica, my family's past, and my current situation. We were having a pleasant conversation when Karen asked, "So, you're job hunting now?" And I gave a bitter smile, saying, "Yes, it's been tough finding one." But what Karen said next took me completely by surprise.
Why don't you join my company?
Your company?
Yes, I'm the CEO of an IT company.
With that, she handed her business card to me. It was a well-known major IT company that even I recognized. I think this is some sort of fate. I would really like to work with someone like you. Could you please consider it? She asked. I was dumbfounded by the sudden turn of events. A few months later, I now work as an employee at Karen's company. On days off, I occasionally reminisce with Karen about memories of my mom or hang out with Jessica. I thought I was all alone in the world. My cold heart was warmed by my mom, Jessica, and Karen. It made me realize once more the importance of human connections. I'm heading out, I said towards the one photo I had brought from the possessions left behind. It seemed like the picture of my dad and mom were smiling happily back at me.